Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he worked on the broken air machine. The hot sun of Kepler 442b beat down on him through the clear dome that covered the small human colony. He had been fixing things like this for 3 years now, but he still remembered his old job as a marine medic. 10 years ago, this same planet was very different. Back then, it was just a mining base with 50 soldiers and workers. Jake was 22 and fresh out of medical training. He thought he would spend his time treating small cuts and broken bones. He never thought he would meet someone who would change everything. It happened on a cold morning in October. Jake was walking back from the medical tent when he heard a strange sound from the old mining tunnels. The tunnels had been empty for months after the mining company found better spots to dig. Most people stayed away from that area. The sound came again. It was like crying, but different. Jake grabbed his medical bag and a flashlight. He told himself he was probably just hearing the wind, but something made him go look anyway. Deep in the tunnels, behind some fallen rocks, Jake found her. She was small, maybe 15 years old, with skin that looked blue in his flashlight. Her clothes were torn and burned. Blood covered her left arm and leg. She was trying to hide behind a piece of metal that looked like nothing Jake had ever seen before. When she saw him, she tried to crawl away. Her eyes were large and gold, filled with fear and pain. She spoke in a language Jake did not know, but he could tell she was begging him not to hurt her. "It's okay," Jake said softly, putting down his bag and showing his empty hands. "I'm a medic. I want to help." The girl stared at him for a long moment. Then she fell over, too weak to stay awake. Jake knew he should call his captain right away. The rules were clear about finding aliens, but looking at the hurt girl, all he could think about was helping her. He checked her pulse. It was fast but steady. The cuts on her arm and leg were deep and needed care soon. He picked her up carefully. She was lighter than he expected. Her skin felt warm, not cold like he thought it would be. Jake carried her to an old storage room behind the medical tent where no one would look. For the next hour, Jake worked to clean and close her wounds. Her blood was darker than human blood, almost purple. But her body seemed to heal the same way humans did. He gave her medicine for pain and covered her with blankets. When Dr. Ben Carter came to check supplies that evening, he found Jake sitting next to the sleeping girl. "Jake, what the hell is this?" Ben whispered, staring at the blue-skinned girl. "She was hurt," Jake said. "I couldn't just leave her to die." Ben looked around nervously. "Do you know what will happen if the captain finds out? They'll take her away for testing. She'll never see her home again." "Then we don't tell anyone," Jake said. "Not until she's better." Ben stared at his friend. They had known each other since basic training. He knew Jake was the kind of person who would risk everything to help someone in need. "This is crazy," Ben said. But he sat down and started looking at the girl's wounds. "We'll need to watch for infection, and we need to figure out what she eats." For 3 weeks, Jake and Ben took turns caring for the girl. They moved her to an even more hidden spot in the old mining equipment shed. Jake brought her food and water. Ben checked her healing cuts. On the 4th day, she woke up and spoke her first word in English. "Jake," she said, pointing at him. "Yes, I'm Jake," he said, smiling. What's your name?" She touched her chest. "Zill." From that day on, Zill learned new words every day. She was very smart and picked up English fast. She told them through simple words and hand signs that her ship had crashed. Her people were far away. She was alone. Jake showed her pictures on his tablet computer. When she saw the stars, she got excited. She took out a small device from her pocket. It made pictures in the air showing star maps that Jake had never seen. She pointed to systems far beyond human space and said words he could not understand. But Zill understood more than she could say. She watched Jake work and helped him fix small things. She learned about human food and started to smile more often. Sometimes Jake caught her watching the stars through the window with sad eyes. 3 weeks after Jake found her, Zill was much better. Her cuts had healed completely, leaving only thin white lines. She could walk and run normally. She even learned to play simple card games with Jake and Ben. One morning, Jake brought her breakfast and found a small crystal pendant on the table where she slept. Next to it was a note written in careful English letters. Jake friend. Zil remember, always. Thank you for heart of good. One day Zil helped Jake people. She was gone. Jake ran outside and looked everywhere, but there was no sign of her. Even her strange device was gone. Only the crystal remained, warm to the touch and glowing softly with blue light. Jake never told anyone about Zil. The crystal became his most precious thing. He wore it on a chain around his neck and never took it off. Now, 10 years later, Jake stopped working and touched the crystal through his shirt. It still glowed sometimes, especially at night. He often wondered what happened to the blue girl who had learned to trust him. He hoped she found her way home safely. The air machine started working again. Jake packed up his tools and headed back to the main building. Above him, the stars were starting to show in the evening sky. He did not know that in a few hours those same stars would bring him the biggest surprise of his life. As Jake walked home, his crystal pendant grew brighter than it had ever been before. But he was too tired to notice. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight he just wanted to rest and remember the brave blue girl who had trusted him with her life. Jake woke up to the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed in his small room. He jumped out of bed and looked outside. In the sky above the colony, huge ships floated like dark clouds. They were bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. Each ship was the size of a city. All workers report to the main hall immediately, a voice said over the speakers. This is not a drill. We have visitors. Jake dressed quickly and ran to the main building. Other colonists were already there, all talking at once. Everyone looked scared and confused. Through the big windows, they could see more ships appearing. In the sky, Captain Lisa Hardy stood at the front of the room. She was the leader of the defense station that protected this part of space. Her face was serious but calm. Listen carefully, she said. These ships appeared 2 hours ago all across human space. They're not attacking, they sent us a message. She paused and looked around the room. They're looking for someone named Jake Morrison. Everyone turned to look at Jake. His heart started beating fast. He touched the crystal pendant under his shirt. It was glowing so bright he could see the light through his clothes. Me? Jake said. Why would aliens want me? Captain Hardy walked over to him. The message was very clear. They said, We seek Jake Morrison. The Empress wishes to honor an old debt. Do you know what that means? Jake thought about Zil and the promise she had written in her note. But how could she be an empress? She was just a hurt girl he had helped. I think I might know, Jake said slowly. Before he could explain, a new voice filled the room. It spoke perfect English with a slight accent that sounded familiar. Jake Morrison, this is Empress Zilandra of the Veltheran Empire. I have waited 10 years to speak with you again. Please come aboard my ship. You have my word that no harm will come to you or your people. Jake's mouth fell open. Zilandra, the name, was different, but the voice was the same. It was his blue girl all grown up. I know her, Jake said to Captain Hardy. I helped her once, a long time ago. Captain Hardy stared at him. You know the leader of this alien fleet? She wasn't a leader then, Jake said. She was just a scared kid who needed help. An hour later, Jake was on a small shuttle flying up to the biggest alien ship. Captain Hardy came with him along with 2 soldiers. Jake's hands were shaking as they got closer to the massive vessel. The ship was beautiful and scary at the same time. It was made of some kind of metal that changed colors in the light. Strange, symbols glowed along its sides. As their shuttle flew into the landing bay, Jake saw hundreds of aliens working inside. They were all tall with blue-tinted skin, just like Zil. A group of aliens met them at the landing platform. They wore armor that looked like art and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their leader was a woman who stood almost 7 feet tall. She had the same gold eyes Jake remembered, but now they held the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. Jake, she said, and her face broke into a smile. You look exactly the same. Zil? Jake said. Is it really you? I am Empress Zilandra now, she said, but to you I will always be the girl you saved. She walked forward and hugged him. The alien soldiers around them looked surprised, but they said nothing. Captain Hardy stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I'm Captain Hardy of the Human Defense Forces. We're grateful for your peaceful approach, but we need to understand why you're here." Zilandra let go of Jake and turned to the captain. When she spoke, her voice became formal and commanding. "Captain Hardy, I am here because of a debt that can never be fully repaid. Jake Morrison saved my life when I was young and alone. He showed me that humans have good hearts. Now I wish to offer your people something in return." She led them through the ship's corridors. Everything was huge and made for people much taller than humans. The walls showed moving pictures of strange worlds and alien cities. Jake saw creatures he could never have imagined. They entered a room with a big table and chairs that adjusted to human size. Maps of space filled the air above the table, showing thousands of star systems. "Your people are still young," Zilandra said. "You have spread to only a few dozen worlds. But you are brave and clever. My empire has watched your growth with interest." She pointed to the star map. "These are the worlds of the Vailtharan Empire, over 800 planets with billions of people. We are part of something called the Galactic Confederation. Many different species work together for peace and protection." Captain Hardy leaned forward. "Protection from what?" Zilandra's expression became dark. "There are dangers in space that your people do not know about yet. Hostile races that see humans as weak because you are new. Pirates who attack colonies. And worse things that I hope you never have to face." Jake stared at the star map. "You want us to join this confederation? I want to offer you a choice," Zilandra said. "Join us as equals, not servants. We will share our technology and knowledge. We will protect human worlds from threats you cannot fight alone. In return, you bring your own gifts to our alliance." "What gifts?" Captain Hardy asked. "Your technology is clearly far ahead of ours." Zilandra smiled. "You underestimate your people, Captain. Humans adapt faster than any species I know. You solve problems in ways that surprise even us. And most importantly, you have something many advanced races have lost." "What's that?" Jake asked. "Compassion," she said, looking directly at him. "The willingness to help someone different from yourself even when it might be dangerous. That is why I am here. That is why I believe humans and Veltharans can be great allies." Captain Hardy was quiet for a long moment. "This is a big decision. Our leaders will need time to think about it." "Of course," Zilandra said. "But I hope they decide quickly. There are forces moving in this part of space that could threaten both our peoples. Together, we are strong. Apart—" She didn't finish the sentence. Jake looked at his old friend. She had grown from a scared refugee into a powerful leader. But when she looked at him, he could still see the girl who had trusted him with her life. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now you go back to your people and tell them what you have seen," she said. "Tell them that the girl you saved remembers her promise. I said I would help your people one day. Today is that day." As they prepared to leave, Zilandra took Jake aside. "I never forgot what you did for me," she said quietly. "You could have turned me over to your military. Instead, you risked everything to help a stranger. That one act of kindness changed my life. It made me believe that different peoples could trust each other." She handed him a small device. "This will let you contact me directly if your people have questions. I hope they will choose to be our friends." Jake took the device. "What if they say no?" Zilandra's expression became sad. "Then I will respect their choice and leave. But I hope they understand that some opportunities only come once." As Jake's shuttle flew back to the colony, he looked up at the alien fleet. Each ship could probably destroy every human military base with ease. But Zilandra had come in peace, offering partnership instead of conquest. He touched the crystal pendant around his neck. 10 years ago, he had saved one alien girl. Now that girl was offering to save humanity itself. The question was, would his people be wise enough to accept her help? The emergency meeting on Earth lasted 12 hours. Jake sat in a room full of generals and politicians, telling his story over and over again. Some people believed him, Others thought he was lying or being tricked by the aliens. Admiral Kate Murphy was the hardest to convince. She was the head of all human military forces, a tough woman who had fought in 3 colonial wars. She sat across from Jake with her arms crossed and doubt in her eyes. "So you're telling us," she said, "that you hid an alien for 3 weeks 10 years ago and now she's come back with a fleet that could destroy every human world?" "She doesn't want to destroy anything," Jake said for the 10th time. "She wants to help us." "Help us do what?" Admiral Murphy snapped. "Join their empire? Become their servants? No species offers help for free, Morrison. There's always a price." Captain Hardy spoke up from her seat. "Admiral, I was there. I saw..." How the Empress looked at Jake. "This isn't about conquest, it's about gratitude." "Gratitude?" Admiral Murphy laughed coldly. "Captain, that alien fleet has enough firepower to turn Earth into space dust. If they wanted to show gratitude, they could have sent a thank you card." Dr. Ben Carter, who had flown in from his research station, leaned forward. "Admiral, I helped Jake take care of Zill when she was injured. She was just a scared kid then. But even as a child, she was incredibly intelligent. If she's become a leader of an interstellar empire, maybe we should listen to what she has to say." "What I hear," Admiral Murphy said, "is that we have hostile aliens in our space making demands. They want our cooperation, but they came with warships, not diplomats." Jake felt frustrated. "Those aren't warships. They're exploration vessels. Zilandra explained that to me." "Exploration vessels with enough weapons to level cities," Admiral Murphy replied. "Morrison, I don't doubt that you believe this alien cares about you, but leaders lie. They use people. She might be using your friendship to make us lower our guard." The arguing went on for hours. Finally, President Collins made the decision that would change everything. "Admiral Murphy, prepare our defense fleets," he said. "If these aliens want to negotiate, they can do it from outside our solar system. I won't have foreign warships floating over Earth." Jake stood up quickly. "Sir, you don't understand. If we attack them, we'll start a war we can't win." "We're not attacking anyone," President Collins said. "We're showing them that humanity doesn't bow down to threats, even when they're disguised as friendship." 2 days later, the human defense fleet moved to intercept the Veltheran ships. Admiral Murphy commanded from the battleship Carolina, the most powerful ship humans had ever built. 50 other vessels followed her, representing the entire human military. Jake was on the bridge, trying one last time to stop the disaster he saw coming. "Admiral, please," he said. "Let me talk to Zilandra first. I can explain what's happening." "The time for talking is over," Admiral Murphy said. She turned to her weapons officer. "Target their lead ship. Fire a warning shot across their bow." The Carolina's main cannon fired a bright beam of energy that passed just in front of Zilandra's flagship. It was meant to be a show of force, not an attack, but Jake knew how it would look to the aliens. The response was immediate. A calm voice spoke over the radio in perfect English. "Human vessels, this is Empress Zilandra. Your warning shot has been noted. Please withdraw to a safe distance so we can continue our peaceful talks." Admiral Murphy grabbed the radio. "This is Admiral Murphy of the Human Defense Force. You have 30 minutes to leave our solar system. Any alien ship remaining after that time will be considered hostile." There was a long silence. When Zilandra spoke again, her voice was colder. "Admiral Murphy, you are making a serious mistake. We came here in peace to honor a debt. We have no wish to fight you." "Then leave," Admiral Murphy said. Another silence. Then Jake heard the voice he dreaded, not Zilandra, but one of her military commanders speaking in their alien language. Even without understanding the words, Jake could hear the anger. Zilandra came back on the radio. "Jake Morrison, are you listening?" Jake grabbed the radio from Admiral Murphy. "I'm here, Zil. Please, this is all a misunderstanding." "Jake, my friend, I hope you are safe," she said. "What happens next is not my choice anymore. My people feel insulted by your military's actions. They demand that I show them our strength." "Zil, please don't do this," Jake said. "I am sorry," she replied. "I hoped your people would trust me as you once did. But I see that trust must be earned differently. With humans, the alien ships began to move. They didn't fire any weapons, but something much worse happened. Every human ship suddenly lost power. Their engines stopped. Their weapons went dead. Their communication systems failed. Even their life support systems began shutting down. In less than 10 minutes, the entire human defense fleet was floating helplessly in space. Then the real demonstration began. The Valtheran ships moved past the disabled human vessels toward Earth itself. Every defense satellite around the planet went dark. Every missile base stopped responding. Every radar station went quiet. The aliens didn't destroy anything. They just turned it all off. Jake watched from the powerless bridge of the Carolina as alien ships took position around Earth. He realized that if Zilandra had wanted to conquer humanity, she could have done it in minutes. Instead, she was showing them how completely outmatched they were. Admiral Murphy sat in her captain's chair, staring at the dead control panels around her. For the first time since Jake had met her, she looked defeated. They could have killed us all, she said quietly. Yes, Jake said. But they didn't. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Zilandra doesn't want to hurt us. The radio crackled back to life. Zilandra's voice filled the bridge. People of Earth, I want you to understand something important. We could have destroyed your fleet. We could have conquered your world. We did not come here to be your enemies. We came to be your friends. She paused, then continued. But friendship requires trust on both sides. Your leaders chose to threaten us instead of listening to us. This demonstration was necessary to show you the truth about our two peoples. Admiral Murphy took the radio with shaking hands. What do you want from us? The same thing I wanted 3 days ago, Zilandra replied. To offer you a place among the civilized species of the galaxy, to share our knowledge and protection, to honor the debt I owe to Jake Morrison, who showed me that humans can be compassionate and brave. Jake could hear the sadness in her voice when she spoke again. But I also want you to understand this. There are dangers coming that neither of our peoples can face alone. In approximately 6 hours, you will detect ships entering this star system. They are not friends to humans or Valtherans. When they arrive, you will see why I came here with warships instead of just diplomats. The radio went silent. Around Earth, the alien ships began moving into defensive positions. Jake looked out at the stars and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold of space. Something was coming. Something that scared an empress who commanded hundreds of worlds. Admiral Murphy looked at him with new understanding in her eyes. Morrison, she said, I think we just made the biggest mistake in human history. Jake nodded, watching the alien ships prepare for battle. We're about to find out just how big. Jake was back on Zilandra's ship when the sensors detected them. He had convinced Admiral Murphy to let him act as a go-between, while both sides tried to fix their broken trust. But now, looking at the readings on the alien screens, Jake forgot all about human politics. What are those, he asked, pointing at the dots appearing at the edge of the solar system. Zilandra stood beside him, her face grim. The reason I brought warships instead of peaceful vessels, she said. The reason? My empire has been gathering allies across the galaxy. Jake, meet the Devourers. Dr. Ben Carter, who had been studying Valtheran technology for the past day, looked up from his work. Devourers? That doesn't sound good. It is not, Zilandra said. They are machines built by a race that died out millions of years ago. They were created to harvest resources, but something went wrong. Now they harvest everything. Planets, stars, entire civilizations. On the main screen, the alien ships came into view. They were not like Valtheran vessels, which had curves and beauty. These ships were all sharp angles and dark metal. They moved in perfect formation like a swarm of metal insects. How many? Jake asked. 200 ships, one of Zilandra's officers reported. Standard harvester fleet. Admiral Murphy's voice came over the radio from the Carolina, which was still powerless. Alien ships, this is Admiral Murphy. What are those things approaching our system? Admiral, Zilandra replied. Those are the enemies I warned you about. In approximately 1 hour, they will begin harvesting your outer planets. They will strip them bare and move inward toward Earth. Harvesting? Admiral Murphy asked. What does that mean? Jake watched the screen in horror as the Devourer ships reached Pluto. They spread out around the small planet and began to glow. Beams of energy connected the ships to the planet's surface. "It means they eat everything," Zilandra said quietly. Within minutes, Pluto began to shrink. The Devourer ships were pulling apart the planet piece by piece, sucking up the material, like a giant vacuum cleaner. Where there had been a world, soon there was only empty space and a growing cloud of collected matter. "Dear God," Admiral Murphy whispered over the radio. "Now do you understand?" Zilandra asked. "This is why I came with weapons. This is why my empire needs allies. The Devourers have already consumed 12 star systems in our territory. We cannot stop them alone." Jake felt sick watching the destruction. "How do we fight them?" "With great difficulty," Zilandra said. "Their ships are heavily armored and shielded. Their weapons can destroy a planet, and they never stop. Never retreat, never negotiate, they only harvest." Dr. Ben looked up from his scanner. "Jake, I'm detecting something strange. These Devourer ships, they're not showing any life signs. No organic matter at all." "Because they are not alive," Zilandra explained. "They are artificial intelligence without consciousness. They follow their programming, find resources, harvest everything, move to the next target." The Devourer fleet had already moved past where Pluto used to be. Now they were approaching Neptune. Admiral Murphy came back on the radio. "Empress Zilandra, I owe you an apology, and I need to ask for your help." "Admiral," Zilandra replied, "restore power to your ships and prepare for battle. We must work together now, or we will all die together." Power returned to the human fleet instantly. Admiral Murphy didn't waste time asking how the aliens had done it. "All ships," she ordered, "form up on the alien fleet. We're about to fight for the survival of our species." Jake had never been in a space battle before. From the bridge of Zilandra's flagship, he watched human and alien ships move into position. The human vessels looked tiny next to the Valtheran ships, but they moved with quick precision. "Your people learn fast," Zilandra observed as she watched human fighters take formation around her larger vessels. "We're good at adapting," Jake said, remembering her words about human gifts. The first clash happened near Mars. The human and Valtheran ships opened fire together, their different weapons creating a light show across space. For a moment, Jake thought they might actually win. Then the Devourers fired back. Their weapons were unlike anything Jake had seen. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired clouds of tiny machines that ate through ship armor like acid. 3 human vessels disappeared in minutes, consumed from the inside out. "Fall back," Admiral Murphy ordered. "Reform at Earth." But the Devourers kept coming. They had finished harvesting Neptune and were already starting on Uranus. Each planet they consumed made them stronger, gave them more resources to build new ships. Jake watched Captain Hardy lead a group of human fighters in a desperate attack on a Devourer ship. Her weapons barely scratched its armor. But when her ship was about to be destroyed, a Valtheran cruiser moved between them and took the hit instead. "Thank you," Captain Hardy said over the radio. "We protect each other now," the alien captain replied in broken English. Dr. Ben had been working frantically with Valtheran scientists, trying to find a weakness in the enemy ships. Suddenly he called out, "Jake, I think I found something. These machines, they're connected to each other through some kind of network. If we could disrupt that network, they would lose coordination," Zilandra finished. "But how do we disrupt a network we cannot access?" Jake stared at the battle raging outside. Human and alien ships were fighting side by side now, but they were losing. The Devourers just had too many ships and too much firepower. Then he remembered something from his old military training. Sometimes the best way to fight an enemy was not to attack their strength, but to turn their strength against them. "Zil," he said, "you said these machines harvest everything, right? They can't help themselves?" "That is correct. They are programmed to collect all available resources. What if we gave them something they couldn't digest? Something that would damage them from the inside?" Dr. Ben looked up from his scanner. "Jake, what are you thinking?" Jake pointed at the crystal pendant around his neck, which was glowing brighter than ever. This crystal came from Zill's people. It's been glowing stronger ever since the Devourers arrived. What if it's reacting to them somehow? Zil-Andra stared at the pendant. That crystal contains concentrated quantum energy from our homeworld. It is very rare and very powerful. Powerful enough to hurt them if they tried to harvest it? Jake asked. Possibly, she said slowly. But we would need a way to get it inside their ships. Captain Hardy's voice came over the radio. I'm reading. Massive energy buildup from the Devourer fleet. They're preparing to jump to Earth's orbit. Jake looked out at the approaching enemy fleet. In minutes they would be at Earth and billions of people would die. I have an idea, he said. But it's crazy, and we might all die trying it. Zil-Andra looked at him with the same trust she had shown as a scared girl 10 years ago. Tell me, she said. Jake began explaining his plan. It was dangerous and probably impossible. But as the Devourers prepared to consume Earth, it might be their only chance. We're going to feed them something they can't swallow, he said, and hope it gives them a very bad stomachache. Jake's plan was simple and terrifying. They would load every quantum crystal the Velthorans had onto a single ship and fly it straight into the heart of the Devourer fleet. When the machines tried to harvest the ship, the crystals would overload their systems from the inside. The problem was that someone had to pilot the ship, and they probably wouldn't survive. I'll do it, Jake said as they prepared the mission. No, Zil-Andra said firmly. I will not let you sacrifice yourself, not after everything you have done. It has to be me, Jake argued. The crystals respond to me somehow. And if this doesn't work, at least I'll have tried to repay what you did for humanity. Admiral Murphy's voice came over the radio. Morrison, this is insane. You're not a pilot. I am, Captain Hardy said suddenly. I'll fly the mission. Lisa, no. Admiral Murphy said. I can't lose you too. Admiral, with respect, this isn't your choice, Captain Hardy replied. Someone has to do it, and I'm the best pilot we have. Dr. Ben looked up from the crystal he was studying. Wait, I think there might be another way. These crystals don't just contain energy. They contain information, quantum patterns that could rewrite the Devourer's programming. Rewrite it how? Zil-Andra asked. Instead of making them harvest everything, we could make them harvest each other, Ben explained. Turn their own nature against them. Jake stared at his friend. Can you really do that? Maybe, Ben said. But I'll need to get much closer to their network. Close enough to upload the new programming directly. The Devourer fleet had reached Earth's orbit. Already some of the smaller ships were beginning to descend toward the planet's surface. Every minute they waited meant more people would die. We're doing this, Jake said. Ben, you work on the programming. Lisa, get ready to fly the craziest mission of your life. Zil, can your ships keep the Devourers busy while we get in position? We will try, she said, but we cannot hold them for long. The next hour was the longest of Jake's life. He stood on the bridge of a small human scout ship loaded with quantum crystals, watching Captain Hardy pilot them through the massive space battle. Velthoran and human ships fought together, creating gaps in the enemy formation. Dr. Ben sat surrounded by alien computers, his hands flying over controls he had learned to use in just one day. Sweat dripped down his face as he worked to rewrite the programming of machines older than human civilization. Almost there, Captain Hardy called from the pilot seat. But we've got company. 3 Devourer ships had noticed their approach and were moving to intercept. Their weapons began charging. Zil, Jake called over the radio. We need help here. On our way, she replied. 2 Velthoran fighters swooped in from above, their weapons blazing. One of the Devourer ships was damaged and fell behind, but the other 2 kept coming. I've got it, Dr. Ben shouted. The program is ready, but we need to get within 50 meters of their command ship to upload it. Jake looked ahead at the massive Devourer vessel that controlled the rest of the fleet. It was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons and harvesting equipment. Lisa, can you get us that close? Jake asked. Captain Hardy's jaw was set with determination. Hold on tight. She dove the scout ship straight down toward the command vessel, dodging energy beams and swarms of harvesting machines. The ship shook as near misses scorched the hull. 30 meters, she called out. 20, 15. Now. Dr. Ben hit the upload button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive command ship began to glow. The light spread to other Devourer vessels, jumping from ship to ship like a virus. It's working, Jake breathed. The Devourer ship stopped attacking the human and Valtharan forces. Instead, they turned on each other. Their harvesting beams began tearing apart their own vessels, consuming metal and energy in a feeding frenzy they couldn't control. Within minutes, the entire Devourer fleet was destroying itself. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before were being eaten by their own kind. The machines that had consumed planets were now consuming each other. Pull back, Admiral Murphy ordered. Let them finish each other off. Captain Hardy flew, their ship to safety just as the last Devourer vessels tore themselves apart. Where the enemy fleet had been, only wreckage and empty space remained. The battle was over. Earth was saved. Jake collapsed into a chair, exhausted. Around him, human and alien voices celebrated over the radio, but he barely heard them. He was thinking about how close they had come to losing everything. Jake, Zelandra's voice came over the radio. Are you all right? I'm fine, he said. We all are, thanks to you. Thanks to all of us, she corrected. Humans and Valtharans working together, just as I hoped we could. 3 days later, Jake stood in the meeting room on Zelandra's flagship again. This time, Admiral Murphy was there with a very different attitude. So were leaders from Earth and representatives from other human colonies. The Galactic Confederation welcomes humanity as full members, Zelandra announced formally. You have proven yourselves to be brave, clever, and honorable. You will have equal votes in all decisions and full access to our technology and knowledge. President Collins leaned forward. What do you need from us in return? What you have already given, Zelandra said. Fresh ideas, new ways of solving problems, and the courage to fight for what is right. The galaxy is a dangerous place, but together we can face any threat. Admiral Murphy spoke up. Your Majesty, I owe you an apology. I let fear and pride cloud my judgment. Humanity is grateful for your patience with us. Admiral, fear is natural when facing the unknown, Zelandra replied. What matters is that you overcame it when your people needed you most. Jake watched the formal proceedings with a smile. 10 years ago, he had helped one scared alien girl. Now, because of that simple act of kindness, humanity had allies among the stars. Dr. Ben had been appointed as the first human science liaison to the Confederation. He would work with alien scientists to understand technologies that could help both species. Captain Hardy received command of the first joint human Valtharan patrol fleet. Her job would be to protect the space lanes between Earth and the alien worlds. And Jake? Zelandra had a special job for him. I name you the first human ambassador to the Valtharan Empire, she said. Your job will be to help our peoples understand each other, to build the trust that will keep us strong. I don't know anything about being an ambassador, Jake protested. You know about compassion, she said. You know about seeing past differences to the person underneath. That is more important than any formal training. Later, as the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Jake stood alone with Zelandra on the observation deck of her ship. Through the windows, they could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't found you that day? Jake asked. Every day, she said. If you had not helped me, I would have died alone, on that mining world. My people would never have learned about humans. And when the Devourers came, both our species would have faced them alone. She turned to look at him. One small act of kindness changed the fate of 2 civilizations, Jake. Never underestimate the power of doing what is right. Jake touched the crystal pendant around his neck. It still glowed softly, but now he understood why. It wasn't just alien technology. It was a symbol of the bond between 2 species who had learned to trust each other. What happens now? He asked. Now we explore the galaxy together, Zelandra said. There are thousands of worlds to discover, hundreds of species to meet, and countless adventures waiting for us. She smiled, and for a moment she looked like the scared girl he had found in the mining tunnels. Besides, she added, I still have much to learn about humanity, and you have much to learn about the universe. We will teach each other. As Jake looked out at the stars, he thought about the future. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. They had friends now, allies who would stand with them against any threat, all because a marine medic had once decided to help a stranger in need. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness had the biggest consequences. And sometimes, when you saved someone's life, they came back years later and saved your entire world. Jake smiled and prepared for the greatest adventure of his life, helping two species become one people among the stars. The blue girl he had saved had kept her promise. Now humanity would help her keep the galaxy safe for everyone.